So I bought this $1 PC and I had no idea what to do with it. A friend of mine had a PC sitting in the storage room of his office collecting dust. And he casually mentioned in a text that he had some e-waste he was planning to get rid of. I told him to stop, do not throw it away, I'll come and take a look. I went there and without checking anything, I offered him $1 for this PC, which he graciously accepted. That was Dell Optiplex 9020, which is like literally built like a tank. Later, I found out the specs of this machine and this was worth at least $40 to $50. So I definitely got a good deal and he was totally okay with it. And when I brought it back home, I opened it up, I checked it, there was an SSD to my surprise in there. And I had absolutely no idea what OS would be in there. I was sure there would be Windows, but it would be corrupted or something, and exactly I was right. There was Windows in there, but it was corrupted. Even if it was Windows in there, that was of no use to me. I was always going to install Linux. So that's exactly what I did. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with this PC, so I installed Ubuntu 24.04 desktop version. So now it was the time that I stress test this PC. So I performed 5 tests. Before performing the tests, I wanted to go and have a look at specs. So I went into the About section. And here you go, you could see. And we had 4 gigabytes of RAM. We have got decent disk space and an Intel Core i3-4160, which is a 2-core and 4-thread processor. Then I started my 5 tests. The first test was health check of the storage. So I ran a smart health check command and all I was looking for in the output was the word passed, and it passed the overall smart health self-assessment test. The second test was about CPU. So I stress tested CPU and it went fine. They handled the load without any issues and the temperature of the machine was okay. And the third test was about RAM. I tested the RAM and everything was working okay and fine. The fourth test was network test, and here I got a surprise. This PC doesn't have any built-in Wi-Fi card, so I had to attach a small USB Wi-Fi dongle, and after that the network worked perfectly. And the test was successful. Everything was okay. And later in the video, I shifted to Ethernet for better stability. The fifth test was about testing everything. Like I opened up multiple browsers, I opened up multiple tabs in the browsers, played YouTube videos, opened up docs, and to my surprise, everything was running smoothly. So this PC was really worth it. Now, it was the time to decide what I was gonna do with this PC. The kind of work that I do requires me to use multiple PCs. I have a PC for editing, I have a PC for recording, I have a PC for testing, and I just have another regular PC that I use. My files are constantly scattered. Sometimes I use an external drive, sometimes I email them to myself, sometimes I move them manually. That's inefficient. That's when it dawned on me that I should convert this thing into a NAS. For those of you who are not familiar with NAS, NAS stands for Network Attached Storage. So basically it's a server there in your house where you can access your files from all your PC if you're using your home network. So I constantly need to access multiple files in multiple machines, so NAS would perfectly solve my problem. And it made perfect sense for me to convert this thing into a NAS. So now I decided to install Ubuntu Server OS. But wait, they're both essentially the same. So why I am installing Ubuntu Server OS and not keeping the desktop version? So the difference is graphical user interface. And I don't need a GUI for my server. At idle, Ubuntu Desktop consumes about 1 to 2 gigabytes of RAM and Ubuntu Server idles around 400 to 500 megabytes. With only 4 gigabytes of RAM, that difference really does matter. So I downloaded the Ubuntu Server OS and created a bootable USB using dd command. If you want that command, that is in the description. After making the USB bootable, I started the installation process. So I entered my username, password, and server name. And during the installation, make sure you select the option to install OpenSSH. That's what allows us to remotely access the server. Once the installation finished, I rebooted and everything went smoothly. However, I made one mistake. I forgot to put in the LAN cable. So I had to complete the installation offline. And because of that, I had to manually configure networking afterward using a netplan.yaml file, which is indentation sensitive, and one wrong space and it won't work. Now, lesson learned, always plug in the LAN cable first. After fixing networking and confirming that the internet was working, I ran IPA command. And that's how I found out the IP address of this machine. So I noted down the IP address and it was time to remove the keyboard, mouse, and monitor. So I did that, and now there was only CPU on my shelf, and that was officially my server. So now let's move on to the next phase, where I just got one of my regular computers. This is MacBook, and on this machine, I'm going to connect to my server that is running with the IP address. So let's go inside this machine and let's perform the next phase. All right, so now I'm inside my MacBook, and here is the thing that I'm going to connect to my server from my MacBook's terminal. If you have Linux, you could do with that. So let's just go ahead and let's just write here a command SSH, and then I'm going to write the username, which is Bobby, and then at the rate, I'm going to write here the IP address essentially. I'm going to write here 18.142. So when I hit enter, it is going to ask me the authenticity of host can't be established. The key is not known by another names. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? So we are not using SSH keys to connect with the server. We are just simply using password because we are using it on our home network, so there's no need for that. We can just simply go ahead and type in yes, and then we can type in the password of the server. So right now you can see that now I have connected to my server successfully, and now essentially I'm controlling my server using my MacBook's terminal. All right, so now that I'm connected successfully, it is time to turn this thing into a NAS. All right, so first I create the directory that will hold the shared files. All right, so I'll write here mkdir. So this P flag that you see right here, it ensures that if the parent directory is not already available, it's going to create that. Like in our case, the server data is the parent directory. It's not there, so it's going to be created. All right. And this tilde essentially means the address, the home address, like this, /home/Bobby. This is what it means. So now I'm going to hit enter, and the directory has been created successfully. So if you just want to make sure if the directory was created successfully or not, so just go ahead and you can see that the server data has been created, right? So if you want to make sure that the shared directory was created, for that you just go ahead and you just type in here server data, right? So you can see that shared directory was created successfully. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install Samba. For those of you who don't know what Samba is basically essentially an open source tool that helps you share your files across your home network. All right. So I'm going to install here sudo apt install Samba, and okay, I'm going to press Y. All right, so once it's done, now I'm going to edit the Samba configuration file, and always do that whenever you are going to edit it. Make sure that first you make the backup of it. So in case you need to go back to the original version, you can always go there. So for that matter, just write here sudo cp. All right, and now I hit enter, and the backup has been successfully created. So now next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this configuration file. So I'll just write here sudo nano and then the path towards the file. Here, I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to add a few things. And in the end, I will write here valid users equals Bobby. So this essentially just means that the only user that I can connect to inside the server is Bobby. All right. So that's how we specify that. This browsable means that when we connect to the server, we want to basically be able to browse it or use it, and then read only no, we want to edit the file. If you do it yes, it means that you can only view the file, and then guessed okay, no, not anybody can connect on the server. And then of course, these are the file permissions that are going to be created inside the shared folder, and this is the directory permissions that's going to be in there in the shared folder. All right. So yeah, that's it. So I'm just going to save it. So let's just come out of here, save it. Now that file has been saved. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to validate the configuration. And for that, I'll just write here test PARM. And here you could see that everything is fine. So next up, I'm going to check the status of the firewall. So for that matter, I'll just write here sudo UFW status. It is inactive. If it would have been active, I would have to go ahead and basically write a command like sudo UFW allow Samba. So I don't have to do that right now. All right. So one thing I'm forgetting is that I need to set up the password for my Samba. All right, so I just write here sudo smb password -a username, and then I'm going to say the new smb password. All right, so now the user has been added successfully. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go on my Mac. I'm going to go to Pathfinder, and here I'm going to go to Go, and I'm going to go to Connect to Server. All right, and here I'm just going to write here the IP address of my server, and then I'm going to connect. So I'm going to click on Continue. I'm going to click here on Registered User, and that's going to be Bobby. And here I'm going to type in the password, and then I'm going to click on Connect. All right, so I've got this folder right here. All right, so we've got this shared DY window here, and let's just say that if I want to create a text file inside my shared data folder, so let's say just server data shared / I create a file here, file.txt. All right, so take a look here. And here you can see that now this file.txt has also been created in this shared on Mac. Essentially, you can access that. Although I've created that inside my server, simultaneously, we can access it in my MacBook. And if I have made a connection to this server from my other machines, I can, this file will essentially be visible there as well. So if I just create a directory here on my MacBook and call it LinuxHint, and if I just like drag and drop here, and if I just go right here, and instead of that, I just write here ls, and I essentially remove this file.txt from here. So I'll be able to see the contents of this directory, and here you can see that it says LinuxHint. All right, so it's that simple. So now we have our complete NAS system, and that's it. That's how we create a NAS, and you can now access all the files on any machine on your local network. All right, so if you just want to come out of this, if you want to disconnect with the server, anytime you can just type here exit, and bingo, you are back to your Mac terminal. So yeah, that's it. With $1 and Linux, I have converted this trashed PC into a real NAS, and that's what you can do. This is the power of Linux. So yeah, that's it. With $1 and Linux, I have converted this trashed PC into a real NAS, and that's what you can do. This is the power of Linux.